Inside the seventh episode of Outsourcing Live, I interview a high-end consultant from San Francisco who shows us a different way on how you can use outsourcing locally in the United States. Also, in the quick tip, I share with you a free application that I use allowing you to set up professional email accounts for any new people you hire. So let's get to it.
Welcome to the Outsourcing Live podcast, where you will learn to build a virtual team to run your business. And now, your host, Tyrone Shum.
Hi everyone, it's Tyrone Shum and welcome to another special podcast here that I've got on today on the Outsourcing Live channel. Today I've got a special guest who's got a sort of a little bit different way of outsourcing, and I wanted to get him onto the call because I wanted to share with you something that's very unique and also that's a little bit of left of center. The reason why I say that is because this is not the ordinary way to go about looking at outsourcing or looking for staff to be able to put onto a business. So what I like to do is just introduce you to David Doolin, and I'll let David share his story with you. So welcome to the call, David.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on. For the people who don't know you, maybe let's just share your story first and let people know what you currently do so that way we can put things into perspective.
Right now, I am retooling my skill set into rapid web application development. There's a pretty big market for that around here right now, and my intent is to work for a short period of time in the development shop and then move back into a management role.
That's pretty cool. We had a previous conversation about what you've been doing as well, and sort of examples as well. And I came across your details and also your blog as well through David Risley's blog, and he actually got you to come onto as a guest poster to talk a little bit about your experiences with, say, what you've done with outsourcing. And you mentioned just then a little bit more about high-end web development type of projects. And you don't usually just go out there and hire people to work on a team or put them into a business, right? Yours is a little bit different. Maybe share an example of something that you could potentially have done in terms of your business and how you're making a living online as well.
Right. So my main living isn't online, just so we know here. I don't want to misrepresent myself. I use my blog as inbound marketing. So it's a marketing aspect of what I do. A good example of the biggest job that I've done in the past was a game provisioning engine for video games, for simulators.
Wow.
And what I came in as a consultant to help the client meet their proposal deadlines. So they had to emit a certain amount of verbiage. They had to write every week project reports, right? Updates, progress to the funding agency. So I was brought on to talk about a specific aspect of how to provision a video game very rapidly. And as a result of that, I ended up designing a system for it, and then they hired me to build it.
Well, what's your background actually, David?
I have a PhD in civil engineering from Berkeley.
Oh, okay. So you're pretty much the sort of systems engineers, very structured type of person. Is that right?
I prefer to work in a fairly structured manner when I can.
Yeah.
I get a lot more done that way.
Definitely. Well, I mean, I guess everybody has strengths like that, and or different personalities have different strengths, and your strength is obviously in structures and also putting together and designing and civil engineering or engineering type of things. What I'm curious about sharing with the audience is, as you mentioned, you've done a video game, or you came in as a project type of person to help put together this video game. And through our conversations prior to this podcast, you mentioned to me that you've been doing a little bit of high-end consulting for these kind of people, these kind of clients, as an example. What is it that you do exactly or entail? I mean, to share with the audience the sort of background of what it is that you do right now.
So the last consulting job that I had was fairly small, but it was develop a business model generating system. Can you parse that?
Yeah, I'm listening to that. So it was like
I can't get into the details of this, but if you follow my blog, you can follow along with the people that I'm interacting with locally in the East Bay area. And what the client wants is a way to develop viable business models, small business models, for not really as an entire business, but as to figure out how to determine whether certain products or services are viable as a part of her business. Okay, so I'm not actually determining the viability of any particular thing. What I've done is I've created a system for her to use to determine the viability of any particular thing.
Okay.
Do you understand how that works?
Partially. I'm just trying to get my head around some of these concepts that you do, because the kind of high-end consulting is really left of center, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, that the reason why I got you on the call was because the stuff that you do is not the norm. And this is why it's really interesting, because I'm still trying to get my head around it. And I'm trying to see how, for example, your type of work also can relate to what you do for outsourcing as well. I mean, like, obviously,
right.
This is not something that's, it's just one business where you've got like 3 or 4 different outsourcers or staff like that. You're actually coming together to put projects together, and you use outsourcing as a form of means to be able to put these projects to deliver to your clients, if I'm getting that correct. Yeah.
It's purely a means to the end.
Yeah, purely means to the end. So in that, sorry.
Let me back up to building these service models.
Okay.
The notion is that building out a system of systems, in other words, a system where you can develop processes, is that once you get the process right, you can outsource that process.
Yes, that's right.
So the thing is, you can't outsource building the process.
And that's where you come into play, which is to build these processes, which once you've built them like a system, then you find the right people to fit into these processes to do the work.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, the goal is that if the actual system itself can be hammered into a regular enough form, the client can hire somebody to bang away on them.
Mm. And that's where you come into play, to be able to consult them to set these type of processes up for them.
Right. So instead of the client having to do all of the business analysis, look for all the business opportunities, she wants to be able to have her employees, the people that subcontract with her, for her, and help her with her clients to work through one of these processes in an afternoon to determine whether they have something viable that they can offer as part of their suite.
Okay.
And that's where I come in. It's like, okay, well, here's what we have to do. Here's everything that's required to figure out the process, how to offer it, what it's going to cost to set it up, what's the long-term viability of it, when do you hit profit, all that kind of thing.
So the kind of, I guess, work or the type of consulting that you do is really to set up a process or the system up front, and the people that your clients are wanting to invest this money into it, invest it up front, and hopefully you can show them the return on investment, say after a year or two, that they'll be able to recoup that investment, basically paying that consulting fee to you, and then all the rest of the income that they generate is basically their pure profit from the system. Yes.
So where I would come in for possibly some of your audience, when they need to figure out if they've got something that they want to outsource, then they need to figure out, is there a business in that model, whatever it is. Okay? So, I do a little outsourcing here and there. I use Roberto Cosi in Serbia for my graphics. Anything that I need to do with graphics, I just pay him to do it. But that's not really a business. That's, I could easily pay somebody here.
Yeah.
But if let's say I had a client that needed a large number of textures rendered for some simulation or some video game, then I would help them figure out what the business model for that is. Okay. if it's not a profit center, if it's a cost center, then where what are they looking at in terms of liability, and then perhaps help set them up to get that work done.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I mean we've had a little bit of a conversation before this as well, and I wanted to share with the audience on something that I think a lot of people don't realize, that outsourcing can actually be done locally, which is what you do as well too. And it doesn't come back down to how cheap it is or the cost of labor it is. I mean, yes, that's partially one part of it, but it's possible to be able to, say, find a client or project that you do that you might be charging outright as maybe $130, and you might be able to outsource it to somebody locally for like $60 or $65. And you're still making a margin on that or profit from that as well too.
Absolutely.
And that's why I wanted to get you on the call, because it's possible to do that you're doing right now. And to share from your point of view, that what is it that you look for in a project, to explain that from point of view before you do jump into it as well.
It's the same as everything else. You really want a client who's in pain.
Mm.
They have to get something done. They've got pressure coming from somewhere else, and they have money. So they need to have pain, and they need to have money. And if they don't have that, there's nothing there. Okay.
There's no transaction.
Right. I mean, it's like I'm not going to work for free.
Yeah, definitely.
So given the pain, given the money, then it turns into, is there a fit? Okay. Where's my value add to the project? Right.
Yep.
And in some cases, there's no value add. In some cases, there's a lot of value add. So around here right now, the most of the activity in San Francisco is working on very fast liftoff startups. So the funding runways are very short. So if you have to get something in the air very, very fast. So they don't need people like me so much as they need people that know how to push code out the door really, really fast.
Mm.
Okay. But next year or 2 years, the ones that are viable, okay, that need to pound into the corners of the market, right? Or to develop new markets, or to extend their products in new ways or something like that. That's where I come in.
Okay, gotcha. So I'm just wondering, like, obviously San Francisco is very much close to the hub of Silicon Valley as well too. It's not too far away from it, is it?
It's about 30 miles.
Yeah, so it's not too far away, and that's where a lot of the new startups, a lot of the really cool stuff that we don't see for a while until it really reaches mass markets, where you get access to that.
Yeah, it's actually, there's a lot of it's actually moved to San Francisco proper, as a matter of fact.
Really? Wow.
Well, like Discuss is in San Francisco for something that bloggers may recognize. Discuss is in San Francisco. Livefire is in San Francisco. Git is in San Francisco. What else? Twitter.
Oh, yes.
Right downtown. I mean, I'm like a 20-minute train ride from these guys.
Isn't that amazing? And such a large company. I'm not even sure if Twitter is actually in its profit yet. It's still building up. It's obviously. Yeah. But
Zynga is 6 train stops from me or something like that.
So you've got really a huge type of market that you can actually consult to there, because obviously those clients there are now to a stage where they're feasible. They've got funding from large companies, and also mass market as well too.
Right.
Then you can just walk in to say, look, if they need a particular service or consulting on a particular part of their projects, then this is where you could come in to help them, and then you look for the people. So you're really like
that's where I'm
matchmaker for skills and resources then.
Yeah, that's where I'm actually going with what I'm doing right now. I'm going there next year.
Okay, that's really interesting though. So let's talk a little bit more about, in detail, I guess, sort of nuts and bolts. Let's say, for example, you got a project from a client. This is, I mean, obviously you don't need to reveal any details about the projects, because I understand they're confidential. But at the same time, just to give people a sort of a process of how you think, so that maybe there's something that they want to do for their local, if they're a consulting business as well, how they can also outsource this. For example, you take on a project, you sit down with the client. What happens from there that allows you to be able to determine this is a value add-on type of project or project that you want to take on as a consultant?
That's a really good question. The first thing that has to work is that there has to be a decent fit.
Mm.
Okay. The there's I've actually turned down a lot of work this year because it's not a very good fit.
It's a good
Uh,
position to be in, though, to be able to say,
well,
I'm going to turn that down.
well, it's not a matter. The thing is we live in a day and age now where I will not take on a sketchy project. I won't take on a project that I can't hit a home run on.
Mm.
So if there's I won't take on any project where I feel any risk. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, like, the thing is, if you did take on those projects, there's obviously going to be more issues down the track. You don't know
Right.
what type of issues, though, but there's a
Right.
risk.
So some cranky client prospect comes in with some kind of wackadoodle project. They're in a hurry. They don't have a lot of money. I could probably do it. Okay. But the thing is, it doesn't really pay that well anyway, right?
Mm.
And the client is cranky and they are in a hurry and they have no concept of what the value of what they're asking for. All right. So on the one hand, yeah, I could use the money. On the other hand, no, I'm not going to deliver what this person wants no matter what, period. Right. Because they're clueless.
Yep.
All right. And so I make a little money and then I have someone running around telling people, oh, well, they didn't do a very good job. Forget it. I ain't doing it.
Yeah. That's a very good point there. And at the end
Whether
of the
you
day, you want to deliver value. And
That's
for
going to
people,
deliver value. And if somebody can't come to me with a valuable project, I'm not going to do it. And if that means I eat ramen, I'll eat ramen.
well, obviously, you've done a few projects that have kept you going to where you are today. Like, obviously, it's worked out really well in that sense. And have you seen many projects or have you taken on any projects in the past that haven't worked out well and that you didn't end up using outsourcing or just went the unexpected way?
I tend to, if I've got something that's being outsourced, then if I'm not making a margin on it, I get rid of it fast.
Hmm.
And I've had a couple where I ended up just eating it, you know?
Yeah. How do you determine a client that is going to be paying as well, and how do you determine from that contract, like how long something's going to take?
That's a really good question. And the, the answer, it depends on the client and it depends on the contract. It depends on the work. So how long work takes that's just a really hard thing.
But before you actually jump into it, do you go out and find, like, say, for example, people to outsource and then consult with them on how long there's going to take to develop, or do you make the decision
Oh yeah,
on, yeah?
if I can.
If you
Let's say
can.
I'm going to do, let's say I have, let's say I get a little WordPress work or something like that. And I'll do a little bit of that, no problem.
Yeah.
Uh, if I haven't done it before and the client, like, again, is like they're in a hurry and they don't want to pay very much, I'll pass it up. If the work is fair and I think I can do it, I'll ask around for, well, what's about the right price for this. So around here, if you do a custom page, it's about $300,
Okay.
right?
Yep. A custom
So
page for, say, a WordPress theme you're talking about?
for a WordPress template, it's about
Yep.
$300.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad. They can actually take quite a while. Something like that, I might outsource that out. You know, I may be able to get that done for $100 somewhere else. I have somebody in particular in mind that can do that for $100. The thing is that I'm going to spend 2 hours of my time doing the due diligence.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. By the time you spend your 2 hours, which is probably worth more than $100, where does that figure come back to be able to return you back an investment? Because obviously you got to put a margin on top of that as well.
Right. So I guess that's another really good a good topic to talk about too, is the outsourcing, subcontracting, and freelancing and consulting. There's a whole mix of things that you can sort of do. You can end up doing all four of those activities at the same time.
All right. Well, maybe explain. I'm curious now.
Okay, this is good, and I think perhaps a lot of your viewers might find themselves in potentially viable businesses by understanding the difference for all of this stuff.
Sounds good. Okay, let's go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Consulting is something that you communicate with the client, right?
Yes.
And you can design something, but you don't have to actually do anything.
Yep.
Okay. As a consultant, what I do is limited to proof of concept, prototypes, things like that.
Okay.
That tends to pay pretty well. As a freelancer, I'm on the hook for working code.
Oh, yes, that's right, because you'll be doing the work.
I'm actually doing the work.
Yep.
Not so much money in there. All right.
Because you're really trading your hours, your time for your hours, really. Time for money. That's what I should say.
Right. Both do time for money. Both are time for money trades.
Yep.
Okay. If you do the consulting on a design build basis, or you take on a project where you have to figure out what needs to be done for the client, if you're good, you can figure that out, and then you can outsource the doing of it.
And there's a good example actually for this as well. People take on web development projects like building a website, something like
Right.
that. All you really have to do is to understand what the client wants, go and find the people to outsource it to, like a web developer, a graphic designer. If you've got those two people, set a price. I would say from my experience, set a price with them, and then deliver that price with a margin on top back to your client.
This is how business has been performed for hundreds of years.
Yep.
Exactly.
Very much
Exactly.
so.
Okay. And that puts you in the realm of small businesses. Okay. That's like similar to it's similar to owning any other small business. You're selling a service or selling a product. Let's say you're an accountant, right?
Yes.
And you, as an accountant, you have a room full of bookkeepers.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't keep book. You sell bookkeeping services to other people, and then you sell the consulting to people to make sure that their books are legal.
Yep.
Okay.
That's a very standard type of model that's around for like centuries. This has been around for centuries.
So we're somewhat blinded with all this technology. It's like we can do the same things with technology.
And how do we do it that way with technology?
That's a very good question, and I believe that it starts with skills.
Okay.
So one of the things that I talked about in David Risley's guest post article that I wrote was that for many of the things that I outsource, I like to understand what I'm doing. I like to understand the skill. So I'll do a fair bit of skill building, get a picture of the scope of the work. Okay. Then I'll outsource what I don't want to do what I do want to do, wrap the whole thing up, put a margin on it, and package it back up for the client.
Oh, okay. Yep. That makes absolute sense. Very, very simple basis of doing something like that can actually lead to obviously quite a huge margin, because this is actually not...
Well, I wouldn't say a huge margin, but you can make some money at it. Okay.
Yeah.
The thing that I have found out with all the outsourcing that I've done is that you can't just sort of fire off a description of a project and have it come back in shape to make big bucks. That's just not going to happen.
No, that's very, very much true. Just can't do that, because there's always going to be contingencies and all that extra other stuff that comes with it, dealing with the client, bugs, and so forth.
Right. That's right. And in fact, my experience is that the lower the pay, the less that I pay somebody, the more I have to be all over them to make sure that they're doing the work correctly.
Yeah, actually, that's a very good point that you've raised up, because it really comes back down to what you pay for is what you get. So if you hire someone who's very specialized skill and you are paying them a good amount, you definitely should be getting the work that's being delivered for that.
Right. And for the people that I do the very high end work with, they know that I will deliver something that they couldn't think of. They can wave their arms and basically give me some sort of general feeling that they kind of want something that looks like this and maybe does something like that, and I can come back with something that they like, but they have to pay a lot of money.
Yeah, well, that's really the aim of the game is if they don't know what to do, then that's where you do walk in to say, look, this is what I charge because I've got the skill set and I know that this is something that's possible to do.
Yes, I will do your thinking for you.
Exactly. So we're talking about consulting, freelancing. What were the other two things that we're discussing as well?
Oh my goodness, I don't remember. Contracting.
Contracting, yes, and outsourcing. That's right.
In outsourcing. So on the freelancing, I'll give you some other thoughts on this because to me, it's all wrapped up. They're all, pure outsourcing is just one aspect of a business that maybe you may be able to conduct in several other ways. A good freelancing markup for around the Bay Area is about 400, 500%.
Wow, that's pretty good. That's a very high markup.
Well, it's not because you have to, unless you're in the very fortunate position where you have work coming to you all the time. By the time you do your actual business and then you go drum up work, for every hour you bill, you need to be working about 12 to 15 minutes on the actual work.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So
yeah.
Basically, you have to be able to get a whole week's work done in about 15 to 20 hours.
Gotcha. Because by the time you finish that work, then you've got to go out there and look for more work. And that's the reason why the margins are a little bit higher because it's got to cover that time where you don't have work.
This is typically how it's always been this way. Except that we have in the U.S. now with competition coming in from India or China or other places, then what happens is, let me give you an example. Have you ever used Elance?
Yes, I have. That's where I first started to learn.
Yeah. So you put a project up on Elance, some sort of general hoo-ha, not too difficult, a project, maybe a website or something, right?
Yep.
And within 5 minutes, 10 minutes max, you've got 6 or 8 people that have replied to it.
That's right. Very quick, especially from India. They're very quick on the ball.
Well, the thing, and they're not charging very much, right?
No.
Okay, but see, here's the thing. Those people that replied, they don't do any work. They don't do the work.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've had that happen to me so many times. All they want to do is just say, yes, 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 I'll do it. And then hoping that the person will fall for it is to pay them up front and then will not complete the work. I've had that happen to me before.
Right.
And I know a lot of people have also felt that way too.
Yep. Or they may be fronting a company.
Oh, yes, that's right.
So they have someone who's in charge of, we'll call it sales or business development, where he's got a bunch of browser windows open and he's just hitting refresh on Odesk and Elance and all these other things to try to pick up projects as fast as he can to feed his team.
Yeah.
The actual team itself isn't getting paid very much, right?
That's
but
right.
The thing is, now you've got a point of contact with somebody who doesn't actually do the work and may not even know how to do the work.
Yeah, and that's the worst part about it.
And what's your time worth?
You've lost your time basically because you're going to be speaking with this person who might beat around the bush and not even get anything done for you. I totally know that feeling, and it's frustrating.
Here's another one. On a particular mailing list, I'm not going to say which one it is, but on a particular mailing list, there's somebody who he's got 50,000 pages off of a static site that he has to put in WordPress. 50,000 pages.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. But here's the thing is the client doesn't have any money. His client doesn't have money. Okay, well, that's fine, whatever, right? It's a static site. How hard could it be? You just scrape it, right?
Yeah.
You just download the source and just go through it. Oh, but he doesn't know how to program PHP. He doesn't know how to do any of it. No HTML, no nothing. All right? And the thing is like he is trying to turn this business around. A business with 50,000 web pages, okay, who cannot afford to hire anyone for any money to turn their business around.
So he's just in a stale situation.
Well, the thing is he's not, for whatever reason, he's not doing this for money, right? Because he said he's not doing it for money.
Oh,
he wants to help them. He wants to help them turn their business around. The thing is, they don't have a viable business.
Then there's no point. You haven't looked at the core, the reason why they're doing it as well.
With 50,000 pages, if they don't, they should be able to hire somebody for $5,000 or $6,000 to come in over the course of a week and just deal with it.
Yeah.
With a viable business, what's $5,000 in revenue is what?
Nothing compared to what they should be generating. Exactly.
Exactly. It's a business expense. Write it off.
That's right.
And I'm looking at this and I'm like, man, I'm not even going to get involved with this. Not even, just keep my mouth shut. And if you think about that, let's say you want to do a sales page or a custom page or some other thing that you think, oh, well, this is really simple. It's not very hard. I don't want to spend a lot of money on it. So you end up screwing around for 3-4 days trying to find somebody that'll do the work for $10 an hour. All right.
Yep.
And it turns out that, it probably wasn't a very good idea because you waste all that time and you get somebody and it doesn't even convert. Well, it's the notion is if you're going to outsource, make sure you're outsourcing the right thing.
That's right.
And then pay whatever it takes. And if you have a viable, I sell a few little projects on my site. They're not viable. I'm upfront about this. They're not making me any money, so I'm not going to spend any time on it.
And it's so true. I mean,
yeah.
I was going to say, like, basically, the real core to a lot of people's issues with running any business is not to start outsourcing first, but to have a look to see if your business is viable first. Is it making money to be able to outsource? Otherwise, you're just throwing money out the door. That's
right. You've got it exactly right. And that's why, some of my stuff, I'm my main website on the weekend, I'm pivoting that right now into more of a local play. But the little products I have, they're good products. They're, the quality is there, but the market isn't there. So I'm not going to spend any time on it. I'm not going to spend my time. I'm not going to chase down an outsourcer for it. It just not going to worry about it.
Definitely.
And what I see is around, I read this in blogging land is that there's this notion that all you need is, get it all outsourced and you can make money. I'm like, man, it's just like, man, do people really believe that?
Well, actually, let's diffuse it. I agree on your point of view. It is not a very wise decision to be able to outsource everything if you're doing blogging until you know that you are making a revenue from your blog or whatever you're doing with regards to your business. It doesn't make absolutely any sense. The only thing is that you need to look at to see where the... Well, actually, I have said to people in the past, outsource it first, but before you do outsource it, ensure that your plan, that you've got a project or whatever blogging you're setting up right now is going to actually produce revenue, because you can do statistic research and you can also do projections on how much it's going to do. But I've seen so many people out there with blogs who just outsource it and just get a blog design and then just continue to write and put content on it, but they don't have a goal to achieve, and there's nothing that they know exactly where they're going to generate the revenue from. Oh, that's the other thing. I was actually, I think, listening to a podcast and they were talking about the term monetization. Instead of actually saying monetization, people should be saying this blog has money to be made from advertising, because monetization is a term that is potentially going to make money, but it's not saying that it is making money. And that's a bit of an issue, because if you compare it to, say, like going to restaurants or going out to find I don't know, like making a printing business, they know that they're going to make money from their business because a restaurant has to sell food and customers will pay them for the food. The same thing has to be true for a blog. If people are going to be reading your content, how are they going to be paying you for writing that content or even creating that content? Where they're going to generate the revenue from? And that model of the blogging model sort of is a backward process, because you don't make any money until you start selling something or you advertise something on your blog, and people continue to blog there just for the fun of blogging. I mean, it's fine if they're doing it for the fun, but if they're not, if they are intentionally wanting to make money from the blog, they've got to actually have that up front before they even start to outsource. Yep,
you have it precisely correct. Precisely. And if people want to do it as purely inbound marketing, which is what I'm doing right now with all of my blogs, is they're just inbound marketing. It's just, this is Dave, this is what he knows how to do. He's pretty smart. If you need something from him, get a hold of him. Okay.
Yeah.
The thing is I track the time that I put into him.
That's exactly what people need to do, and what you're doing is exactly right, because then you can see what the return is.
That's right. I have a spreadsheet, and for each of I've got three main blogs that I track time for because they're the ones that I'm concerned about for inbound marketing purposes, for selling consulting and small WordPress jobs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I track the time that I put into them. The spreadsheet has several tabs of it. It's broken down by the hour for each day of the month. Excuse me. It's broken down by the day for the whole year, right? 12 months, 31 days. Put in how many hours per day. All right. Yeah. That gets multiplied into costs. All right. So I have cost tables, and then I have revenue tables. How much did this bring me? What was the return on it? Right. So I do that. I do that for three of my sites, and I don't know anybody else that does that.
I think what you're doing is absolutely a genius thing, because to be honest, a lot of people spend a lot of time on blogs and don't realize how much time it takes, because particularly for the bloggers out there who are not generating income currently from their blogs and spending hours and hours on it, hoping that one day that they'll make money from the blog, it's very, very difficult to really substantiate that. And once you have a time there and you divide it by how many hours and how much revenue you bring in, it really brings you back down to realization, thinking, is it a viable model for them? I mean, no offense to the bloggers out there. I mean, there's millions and millions of them, and I know there's a lot of them who enjoy writing it for fun. That's great. But we're talking specifically about blogging to obviously generate income, and then eventually using that model to be able to fund, say, for example, outsourcers and people to help you get work done, because
absolutely,
otherwise that defeats the purpose of actually even running a business.
Right. For various other, I actually do have some sites that I'd like to develop in the future where I would be willing to outsource the entire content, actually all of it. But the thing is that I don't have the time to put the business model together for it. You see what I'm saying? Yep. So I'm not writing for those.
Yeah,
I'm not writing for those sites at all right now. I'm just leaving them sit.
Yeah, so I mean, there's sort of like going to be R&D, research and development projects down the track when you do have time, if you want to put them in, or if you don't see the return on investment on them, then obviously you put them on the side and just let it be until you do really decide it's time.
Definitely, it's and that's another thing that I don't do with social media. People talk about ROI with social media. I can tell you a really simple way to figure your return on investment with social media. Really simple.
And what's that?
Well, basically, you just put the number of hours a day you spend on social media on one slot, and then put the amount of money that you
I love it. It's so simple. It comes back down to basics.
Simple. It's really simple. You don't have to have anything complicated about it at all. You can just tie it directly to your gross revenue. Okay. Yeah. And then if you want to subdivide that down into various, aspects of the revenue stream, that's fine. But for most small business bloggers, it just comes down to pretty much, you spend so much time on social media, this many sales came from that.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard to figure out.
No, it's really basic, and that's what the points that you've raised up today have been absolutely invaluable. And I know that for viewers out there, just come back down to basics before you do anything with regards to even blogging or outsourcing. You need to look at these simple, basic principles, and it comes back down to these. And
yes, it does.
Absolutely. And the great thing, David, I really appreciate your time on the call today in this interview. The thing that I believe that I picked up, and hopefully the audience as well has seen, is that outsourcing doesn't necessarily have to mean the lowest cost that's available. You can actually do quite a lot with it, like what David's done with high-end consulting, where you could still hire people for making a margin on top. You can hire someone locally still make a margin and profit from that. It's just how you put value on for a client or people. And I just want to sort of eliminate that value, that thinking that outsourcing always has to be the lowest cost. It's really what are the skill sets that people bring to the table, and how can it add value to a project. Would you agree with that, David?
I definitely. And I also would I wouldn't stop people from outsourcing right off the bat if they have a very clear picture of what they hope to find out.
Absolutely.
So if they have the money and they have a business model they think will work, then they can, go ahead, outsource it. Figure out, you'll be paying a certain amount of money to have the remote team do the work. And after a certain amount of time, you will either be making money or you won't. Really simple.
Really, really simple. What I like to do as well, David, is usually at the end of every podcast, I usually ask my guests to share with the audience what is the one thing that is working for you with regards to outsourcing in your business right now that they can take away as being an action step to implement into their business as well.
Communication.
Okay.
You have to, if you cannot communicate with the people that are doing the work, you're in a lot of trouble.
Absolutely, and that's the main form. If you don't communicate with people, you really don't have a team. You don't really have any work done, actually.
Yeah. And that communication it's part of your overhead. If you aren't billing for that, you're eating it. That time, you're eating that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome, David. Thank you so much for that. Well, how can people get in contact with you if they want to find out more about you as well, David?
The best thing to do is they can hit my website, Doolin, which is really easy, and then they can find me. They can scrape me out of that.
Okay, so just spell your website names for some people who might not know the website.
DOOL.in.
.com.
No. DOOL.in.
Oh, okay. Well, see, I'm glad you did spell it. That is such a very unique name. You managed to grab that one too. Good on you. All right. Well, I'll definitely put it in the show notes as well. If you want to check out in the show notes, you can go to outsourcinglive.com /, and I'll put in the episode as well that's relating to this as well. And you'll be able to see the link straight to David's blog as well. Well, David, thank you so much for coming on to the interview today. It's been a real pleasure to interview you and share your story and provide some inside experiences in what you've done with outsourcing as well. So thank you again. It's time for the Outsourcing Live Quick Tip. Inside today's Quick Tip, I want to share with you a really, really powerful tool, all available from Google, and it's called Google Apps. Now, Google Apps has been my foundation or my structure of running and setting up and managing all my emails, documents, calendars, and pretty much everything that runs the backbone of my business. Now, if you're wanting to have something like a professional email address for each and every one of your staff or your virtual team members, you can easily set that up through using Google Apps. And in my instance, say for example, I've got support at outsourcinglive.com, I can use Google Apps to set that up. Whereas if you just set up a normal free Google account, I should say, it would be something like outsourcinglive@gmail.com. Now, if you set it up through Google Apps, it sets up automatically in those professional ways where you can see it as support at outsourcinglive.com. And it's actually very, very easy to set up. To set up a new account and also to get a free one, because Google Apps is usually a paid application if you don't know where to go, here's a little trick for you. Just go to this, which is outsourcinglive.com /Google, spelled Google, apps, apps. And you'll be taken directly to the sign up page there where you can just set up a free account for your organization or for your website and just follow the instructions to set that up. Now, if you want to get a tutorial on how to do that as well, I have a step-by-step tutorial which shows you what to do simply just by going to my website on outsourcinglive.com, and the tutorial is under outsourcinglive.com /Google apps-tutorial. And I'll show you step-by-step on how to set up a free email account, how to set up all your documents, and also calendar as well. And you can just get that all done at the tutorial that I show you on my website. Now, if you like more resources like this one, you can find them inside Mass Outsource Mastermind, along with video tutorials and step-by-step instructions showing exactly how I use them. To get a 30-day, no-risk trial membership to Mass Outsource Mastermind, simply visit freevideoset.com. Until next time, I wish you success in your quest for outsourcing.